We're about to look at a 2005 Land Rover Range Rover. The complaint is the AC button, you click on it, it lights up, but there's no cold air coming out of the vents. So first thing, I just hooked up some gauges to it just to make sure we had Freon, and then make sure the compressor is actually compressing, and you can see it moving, and then it'll kick on and drop pressure on the low side, pick up pressure on the high side. The compressor seems to be working good. You can hear it kick on. All that's coming out is 168 degrees. Now that's not right. We're on AC. We can even do AC max. We're down to 60 here, 60 here. And our temperature is pretty high. So the next thing I want to check is to see, is it switching from hot to cold on the blend door? Is it switching from the heater core, which is hot coolant, to the evaporator core, which is the AC? So I have it on high heat, so this should be heating up, and we're at that same temperature, 152. So that's my guess, is that blend door is not switching from the hot to the cold. It could be a control side here, or that blend door actuator may not be working. So let's figure out, well, what is it? So I was looking up service information to familiarize myself with this vehicle's particular setup. If you notice, now a lot cooler, and it keeps going down. So the AC is blowing nice and cold. Let me show you what I did. Now this is just for testing purposes. I clamped off that heater hose going into the heater core. What this vehicle uses is a water control valve right here. And when it senses that the AC is on, it will divert or stop water from flowing into the heater core, therefore allowing the core to cool down. And then that's how it switches from hot to cold. In this case, is through this water control valve. So the fact that we were able to pinch off that hose and it got cold lets us know that we may have an issue with this control valve or its wiring. So with the AC on max cold, we should have 2 powers and a ground. So that is nothing. I swapped leads. Nothing. And now the last one. Nothing. So the 2 powers come off of the AC control unit inside the vehicle. Let's make sure we have a ground. So I was checking for power, no power. Alright, I'm hooked up to battery positive. And there's our ground. So we have a solid ground, but we're not getting any power from the control. To pull our HVAC control unit out to make sure that it's actually sending a control command, we need to take these 2 side panels off. And that's just, down here there's one screw in the back right there, and then it just separates. So it's just snapped in, and then the same on the other side. And then to pull the unit out, it should just pop out like that. There we go. And then we want the wires in the back. Now this is a used unit from a previous video. During the middle of winter, they weren't getting any heat. I'll post a link to that video, how we diagnosed that this control unit was at fault. Now we're not getting any AC. The button works. We didn't check for AC as far as temperature because it was the middle of winter, so it wouldn't be accurate. But the buttons did operate. Now it would be interesting to see, even though the button lights up, does it actually send that power command? So it's this blue connector here, and we're looking for a yellow and purple, this one here, and then a yellow and brown. Now there's 2 yellow and browns. Now without taking the connector off, I don't know which one it is, but I don't want to take the connector off at the moment. So, but either way, even if I get power on the yellow and purple, I didn't get power at all out at the control valve. So I'm going to do the yellow and purple first, see if we get anything. So we're tapped into that yellow and purple. I have my light on battery negative. It looks like we're not getting anything coming out of this unit. So I'm on the yellow and brown that I need, and so I'm still getting nothing. AC is on full blast like it's supposed to. It's supposed to be sending a signal or power to that water control valve, and it's not. So it's looking like the replacement HVAC control module that we put in here wasn't a 100% working module. So we'll get a new one under warranty, slap it in, and hopefully all its functions will be working. So it's sometime later. I got the new unit, but it's not working still. So that's pretty interesting. I'm getting this code. I'll show you here. Nope, not that one. Right there. The right water valve driver fault, the left water valve driver fault. That's the exact same codes I had on the other unit. Is it possible I ended up with a second bad unit? It is possible. What I'm going to do, I have the back unplugged. Let me show you what took out the driver. So I have this side unplugged. I have the water valve unplugged. And we're going to go out and just make sure we are not shorted to power or shorted to ground. All right, welcome back. It has been a couple weeks since we've worked on this vehicle. This is the 3rd replacement HVAC module. I have a feeling something is causing the that water valve driver to go out, to go bad. I have not plugged this in. I have not checked it yet. I wanted to bring you guys along and see if 3rd time is the charm. I have the water valve unplugged. And so this is the test I'm going to do, because I have a theory that it could be maybe a short in the water valve itself that is taking out the driver, but I'm not sure. So this is what we have set up. Grounded to the test lights, and so the water valve sends a power. So if I get a power, let me just show you. There's a power. Test light lights up. So I'm going to plug this end into the harness side of my powers and then turn the AC on. One of these lights should light up, if not both. If they light up for a second and then go out, then I know it's not the control valves that are causing the issue, but something else is causing these drivers to fail. If it lights up and stays on, then sweet, then I'll plug it in. Then if it doesn't work and those drivers fail after plugging it in, then we know that this component is causing the issue and we need to replace that along with a 4th module. So I have the module plugged in on the inside, and already we're getting a light on. So that's telling me that that driver is working. I haven't even turned the AC on yet, but I think it's running a self-check, because just a second ago before I hit the record, it switched to the other side and then back. I'm going to turn the car on and then hit the AC, and hopefully we can get both these lights to stay on while the AC is on. So the AC is on max, and it's still just doing its little lighting up and then switching over and then lighting up. So it may know that it's unplugged. So let's go ahead and plug it in. All right, we are plugged into the water valve. So I'm going to go inside and turn the AC on and see if it blows cold or if it continues to blow hot, and then we get that code back. So no AC, it's blowing hot like it was before. So I have a feeling the drivers went out. Just out of curiosity, I plugged the previous control module back in. So this is control module number 2 that is back in. And I have it plugged in here like we had the number 3 plugged in. And it's doing the exact same thing. So that's interesting. I was not expecting any bulbs to light up, because when we were testing things, we weren't getting any powers, but obviously it is sending a power. So that makes me think, well, then the driver is good. Why was it throwing a code for a faulty driver if the driver is supplying the power like it's intended? So I'm kind of scratching my head a little bit. If the driver's working and we're still not getting AC, then it has to be the water control valves. But why is it giving me a code for a driver? See, that's what's confusing when it's not the driver. But when we tested it, we weren't getting power. But well, that's an easy mistake because look, we're not getting power some of the time, and then we are getting power other times. So the power is intermittent. Is that by design? See, I don't know. The wiring diagram information I have doesn't explain that in depth. So you may be probing here, looking, okay, am I getting power? Oh, no power. Am I getting power on the other pin? No power. Then you condemn a module. Maybe it's not the module though. So this teaches me that you have to be hooked up with both lights and just let it run, let it cycle. And then you can definitively see that, oh yes, we are getting power. Because if I checked it right now, I'm not getting any power. I'd condemn it. If I check that one right now, I'm not getting any power. So I'd condemn it, right? That plus the code for the driver fault. Those combined make me go, oh, condemn the module. So the only other thing that could cause that would cause the AC, not to work, is the water control valve. So based on the information we've gathered so far, it looks like the HVAC control module is indeed working. It's sending power to the water control valve. And it's an intermittent power, but based on its rhythm of turning on, turning off, that could be part of its programming. So what we're going to do is replace the water control valve. Replacement of this water control valve is very easy. You could just look at the new one, and right here it fits in a little grommet hole, so that pops out of the grommet, and then in the back here it just clips in to a little spot, just sits on top of it like that. So what you can do is push everything, take it out of its little grommet, push it back, and then now you have access to the hose clamps that hold it on. And then we'll pop the hoses off. We're going to use these on the hoses to minimize coolant loss. There still will be some that comes out, so just have a catch pan underneath and be prepared for that. Alright, got the old one out. It really was not too difficult. You just have to move things around so you can get to those hose clamps. Other than that, do this while the engine is, cool or cold is best. You don't want hot, scalding coolant. Let me go down below. This is what I lost. So not a whole lot, but still, a decent amount. So just keep that in mind. So now that it's out, just match up the parts, make sure size and function, everything looks, the important parts look good. Alright, let's put the new one in and cross our fingers and hope everything works. Alright, got the new one in. It helps putting that top one on while this unit is out. Put that hose on, tighten it up, and then you can stuff it under and in its little home. But I found that was pretty easy just because of where it's located. It's hard to get something on it to tighten it up. Alright, well, let's fill it up with coolant, put this back on, fire it up. Hopefully we got AC. Alright, moment of truth. Nice and cold. Let's turn the heat up, turn off the AC. Should warm up. And one thing I noticed about this system, I don't know if it's Land Rovers are all like this or not, but it takes a minute for things to change. So now, it's climbing. So it's getting hot, back to cold, AC. And it takes a minute. Now we're starting to drop. So I don't know if it's this vehicle or just Land Rover in general. It takes a while. But I could feel it getting cold. And you can see it dropping. Crank up the fan speed. So that was the fix. Needed a water control valve. Let's look at our scan data. See if that code is still there. And those codes are gone. And that's what was throwing us for a loop, because it said driver fault. If it had said water control valve circuit fault, that might have been different. We were saying, oh, driver fault. Interesting that this interpreted it as a driver fault. The driver is inside the module. So kind of interesting. And then on the manual, it was saying, oh, check for power and grounds at the connector. So we disconnected it, checked for power and ground. We weren't suspecting or weren't anticipating that it would be that intermittent or that fluctuating power. Sometimes it was there for a little while, then it would go away. So I guess I was just testing it at the moments that power wasn't there. But that didn't mean that the control module wasn't ever sending power. So that was kind of an interesting little scenario. Definitely learned a lot about this design and setup. So if I ever come across another Land Rover, I have a little bit more knowledge than I started out with this one. All right, but that is a confirmed fix, nice and cold. Well, that's the fix. It needed a water control valve the whole time. Kind of an interesting scenario, interesting set of events that led us to the wrong conclusion, thinking that it was a control module because of the driver fault code and then the fluctuating power coming from the control module when we were testing. Well, hopefully this information is helpful to somebody out there working on one of these Land Rovers with this style of AC system. My biggest takeaway here is to have 2 test lights hooked up to the harness side of the connector and wait. Turn the AC on, wait, and see if both lights light up eventually. And don't take the code, driver fault code, to be literal. It wasn't the driver that was at fault. It was the water control valve, which is just a solenoid valve. So I guess those are the 2 things maybe to take away from this whole thing. All right, well, that's all I got for you. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe. See you on the next one.